Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's Help Systems webinar, IBMI System Administrator Appreciation Day. Thanks for joining us. Like the tagline suggests, finally good news for the IBMI System Administrator, as they usually only hear from us when things go wrong or a misguided user doesn't understand something or calls for help. We really fail to appreciate those who work behind the scenes, making sure our systems are up, available, and performing as expected, all while helping us to move our technology forward. I really think they're the unsung heroes of IT, so today we get to lift them up and understand their roles a little bit better. My name is Chuck Lisinski, and I am the Director of Technical Solutions here at HelpSystems, and I'm joined today by several of my esteemed colleagues. I've been a system administrator multiple times in my career, and in some ways still do so on our demo systems here at HelpSystems, so I can understand some of the challenges that our system administrators out there in the world see on a day-to-day basis. Ash Giddings, how about you?
Hi, Chuck. Yes, so I've also been a system administrator. I spent, I guess I joined the platform in the System 38 days and spent up until 2005 as a system administrator for managed service providers and finance companies and those involved in logistics, always in and around the I. And I arrived at HelpSystems via the Halcyon acquisition in 2015. So I guess in total I've had 14 years of service. And I'm also part of SEAC, so the Common Europe Advisory Council. So I get to meet IBM face-to-face a couple of times a year to talk about what's hot and happening in and around our favorite platform.
Awesome. Sandy, how about you? What's your background?
Yeah, so I have actually been working on IBMI, AS400, all of those flavors for about 16 years now. Started with Byteware, and again, another one of HelpSystems acquisitions. Great for me, worked out well. Being able to help customers with a lot of system administrators with monitoring as well as security on their systems, and that's really where my interest lies now, is working on security and helping people figure out what they need to do.
Yep, and if you need a security scan, Sandy is one of the experts here at HelpSystems that can provide that assistance, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, won't we, Sandy?
Yeah.
All right. Tim Woodfield, good morning.
Good morning, Chuck. Yes, Tim Whitfield. I am a software development manager here at HelpSystems. Been here sort of off and on for 20 years. I started with Robot Save, but in between, I took a little break, went out into, I'll call it the real world, and worked for actually one of our customers here in town. And so I was working with system developers, system administration folks, keeping the system up and going for our user community. So I've had a little real life, I'll call it real life experience for a break in between those 20 years.
Awesome. And Tim, I'm going to let you introduce our guests.
All right, so today we have Tom Komadowski, who is also a HelpSystems employee, but he is our guru on the IBMI, the S400, whatever you want to call it. And then we have Johnny. He's with Polaris Industries. He's been so kind to join us today. He is also a System I administrator, and he's also part of our Q user group here in town. So he's one of our advisors for that group. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Tim, that's a really good point about our Q user group. All of us, except for obviously Ash in the UK and Sandy in Reno, all of us participate in our local user group. And of course, we really encourage that. Great place to network, especially if you're a system admin on IBMI. Certainly a lot of opportunity to share your knowledge. So what is System Admin Day? Well, this is the 20th annual System Admin Day. Believe it or not, this special day for system administrators out there in the world has been around for 20 years now, and you can go check it out at www.sysadminday.com. Ash, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I hadn't heard about it until a couple of years ago, but yeah, it's designed really to acknowledge and appreciate the person that really keeps the wheels spinning in your company. And a couple of things that I hear quite often are the system's always down or slow. What is it IT do all day? Or the system's up. What is it IT do all day? And sometimes sysadmins can't win, you know. So this is a little stopgap once a year to sit back and just appreciate those people, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'll mention again, too, that we are going to be collecting addresses at the end of today's presentation, so we know where to send the infamous astronaut ice cream, freeze-dried ice cream. And it's in celebration of course, the Apollo 11 moon landing 50 years ago this month. And so let's dive into system admins a little bit here. So what do system admins on IBMI, what do they do? Tim?
Sorry, Chuck. Yeah, so okay. obviously, jack of all trades. I like to say wearers of different hats. It could be anything. It could be security. It could be disaster recovery. It could be, I like the one up here, counseling end users, which could be anything from helping them with their systems to maybe helping get them through their day, depending on what's going on. Obviously, we've got cabling and networking. Johnny was talking earlier, he's on call this weekend, so he can't go too far. So weekends and evenings are in play. So all sorts of different things there, Chuck.
Yeah, and one of the quotes that I got from Tom was, we unpack the server from the box. Or, Tom, you just got a Power 9 server in, didn't you?
Yes, we did. We got a nice little Power 9 box in, S2924. Just got it up and running. Got my first partition working properly on it yesterday.
Awesome. Looking forward to getting on that technology.
Yep. Well, this isn't our first Power 9. This is our newer, larger one, but so we've had it for a little while.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about our IBMI Marketplace survey. This is something that we've been doing for 5 years now, and we've got a few statistics to share with you, and let's dive into that a little bit. So the first statistic is, does your IBMI run fully unattended? So we're talking automation here, and it's really split pretty much almost 50-50. No, 43%, yes, 57%. So, in my opinion, there's still quite a bit of manual activity, manual batch processes being run on IBMI, and a lot of people looking at the system on a regular basis. Ash, what do you see in this statistic?
Yeah, this is interesting. I think we've been doing this survey for a number of years now, and I think this is slowly increased. I seem to recall it starting off around 50% when we first started the survey. So there's a definite slow but sure signs of more and more automation, I would say. And even in the last few years, we've been working with customers who used to perform every check manual, and every job was run from a basic scheduler. But they have this desire for automation, and slowly but surely they've achieved that. And many of our customers now, some of them only change the backup tape each day or each week. They've got automation down to a fine art. So I fully expect to see this increase, this blue increase to 60-65% over the next year or two. And beyond, hopefully.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about, for instance, automating backups toward the end. Things like virtual tape technology has certainly helped with that. Ash, let's talk about system administrator counts at our participants, the people who participated in our survey.
Yeah, this is good. So most IBMI shops have one system administrator, and that'll be you who's listening in today. If you're off ill, if you're off on vacation, I guess the work just queues up. And there was very little with more than one, is there? So it's down to you. So as much as you can automate as possible, I say. So that graph on the left-hand side there, if we can get around that round to 80 or 90%, that's great. And it won't matter too much if there are just one of you, and you do have to disappear, because you all have lots of plates to spin and lots of things to juggle. So yeah, interesting stuff, Chuck.
Yeah, and I think too it also speaks to the stability of the platform.
Yeah, you're right. It's rock solid. I'm sure we've all got anecdotes of IBMI getting caught in floods or being dropped or that kind of thing, and it is rock solid. And I think that's why many of us have stayed in and around the platform for for some years, you know what you're going to get with it when you compare it to other machines.
Yeah.
So what have we got here? We've got, again, another slide from the most recent marketplace results. Do you have any plans to do a hardware or software upgrade in 2019? So 42% obviously looking to upgrade hardware, and I would imagine, as Tom just mentioned, most of these will be Power 9. So Tom, what have we got in HelpSystems? So we've now got a couple of Power 9s, did you say?
Yep, we've got 2 Power 9s running right now in quote-unquote production for development purposes. We've got 3 Power 8s and a Power 7 in our Power VC pool.
Wow, that's some hardware I guess to us on the ground that just asks you to spin up a partition every now and again. We don't fully appreciate what you do, I don't think. How many partitions do you manage now?
Last count I had this morning was 390. We just went up 3 more this morning.
Wow. I'll have to give you 2 back. I've got 2 spinning that I don't need to have spinning anymore. So I can reduce a little bit of your workload.
That's the tough part, is people don't want to give them up. They run forever. People don't realize that they can recycle them and get new ones, but the old ones keep running.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think we always see an increase in people that are planning to upgrade their hardware whenever there's a new power chip announced, which is great for the platform. Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, and Ash, I speak to about somewhere between 400 and 500 customers a year in my tech update conversations. We talk about hardware and software updates, and we've seen a tremendous number of our customers either already going to Power 9 or planning on going from either Power 7 or Power 8 to Power 9. I'm really kind of astounded, actually. And so that's really a good trend. And also we have a good trend here too, Ash.
Yeah, this is good. This is my favorite, actually. It's great to see a decrease in the older and unsupported operating systems, such as 5.4 and 7.1 to some respect. And equally good to see that 7.3 is now the most common OS out there, with a steep decline in V7R1, which I think is still on extended service, if I'm right. But yeah, it's great to see. And funny story here. Just 3 weeks ago, one of our managed service providers contacted us and said, "What monitoring solutions have you got for 3.1?" And I said, "3.1?" He said, "Yeah." And I almost fell off my chair, because 3.1 ended support in 1998. It was a KISS box, and I used my friend Google and realized that the IFS was actually added in 3.1. So this managed service provider had a customer running real-life applications on 3.1, and they were actually looking to move the box into their data center. So rather them than me, but I guess, again, this just says that the machine's rock solid. They just run.
Yeah, I've got a similar story too. I've had lots of my customers who have upgraded to 7.3 in the last, I'd say especially in the last 8 or 9 months. But I also spoke with somebody who has a 3.1 system as well, and that's kind of blew me away. And that's here in the States, in the Chicagoland area. So I was pretty well astounded by that particular figure. All right, let's talk about power servers. How many IBM power servers do you have? And it's interesting that we had 4% that said none. I'm not sure exactly where that came from in the survey, but 30% said 1 server, 37% said 2, and that makes a lot of sense in terms of high availability, disaster recovery, and you can see the other metrics as well. It's interesting that we've got 3% with 11 to 30. And 3% with 31 or plus power servers in their data center. Pretty tremendous number. And likewise, along with that is how many partitions do you run? Vast majority run 1 to 3. So they got over half that run 1 to 3 partitions. And you can see the rest of the partitions, 100 plus 2%. You can Obviously, with Tom Komadowski here at HelpSystems mentioning that he's got 370 partitions that he.
About 390.
390. Wow,
Yep.
390 partitions that he maintains. Obviously, we're doing a lot of software development on IBMI. That's a good portion of our business. So, so you can spin up a partition, but remember, you still have to update that partition. So if you need to go from 7.2 to 7.3, of course, there's a little work that needs to go into that. Let's bring in Johnny at this point. Johnny, how many power servers do you work with?
Here at Polaris, we have three. We have three, two Power 8s and one 7 that we are, we'll be upgrading, migrating to a Power 9 very soon, next year, actually.
Okay, yep, another Power 9 upgrade. And how about partitions?
So across the three systems, we run 12 partitions. So we have a dev, stage, and production environments for each of those individual power systems. Yep.
Gotcha. That's and so that puts you up into the about the 5th category here, 11 to 30.
Yeah.
Right. So that's quite a few.
Yeah. It's not nowhere near the 390, but yeah, they definitely put, there's a lot of work going on in those environments, so it keeps us pretty busy.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I tell you what, we've got a question for our audience. We have a polling question. We're going to have 2 polling questions today, but the first one is, who is your system administrator? All right, so maybe you have no sysadmin, you pretty much run unattended. You have at least one dedicated IBMI sysadmin. I run into this a lot where the developers are also the sysadmins. And more, we're running into, we've turned over our system administrator duties to our network admin. All right, and of course, in some cases, the system administrator duties have been outsourced, so you've got somebody else that manages maybe the monitoring of the system, manages PTFs, manages storage and things like that. Johnny, at Polaris, what would you say you've got for IBM system admins? And do you have any kind of a mix where IBMI crosses other server technologies in terms of admins?
Yeah, we have 2 sysadmins. Each of us kind of have some expertise, and my colleague has some expertise that he's brought to the table in the hardware space, and myself is operating systems and applications, so software space. So with the combination of the two, when we put our brains together, we can usually do some good, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Our management team is they are a mixture of well, mainly in the Wintel space. So it's sometimes we have to translate some of the things that we do in IBMI. Yeah,
It's a good point.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that translates. It's we deal with that here as well. The managers, Microsoft based, x86, and trying to understand the IBMI forum is a little tough sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, here we've got our results. 82% say they have at least one dedicated IBMI system admin. 15% said our developers are also our sysadmins. 8% said our network or server team does sysadmin. 3% outsourced. All right. And we do have a couple comments coming in or questions. We've got one of our participants that said they started on system 38, and certainly some systems, another comment, some systems could be represented in the cloud in terms of partitions and systems. So good comments. And actually, we are going to be moving on into another topic. Let's close the survey. And moving on, and we're looking for a little bit of audience participation here, but we're going to talk about some of the things that we really appreciate about our IBMI system admins. Implementing new IBMI and Power technology, fastest way to root cause analysis, updating OS, PTFs, and so forth, security, as well as backups and restores. And we're going to start out talking a little bit about implementing new IBMI technology. And it's really one of my favorite topics because I do get to play around with some of the new technology on occasion, and you know, that's kind of fun. Or I get to work with some of our customers on some of the new technologies. And so, you know, some of these technologies are quote unquote new, but they've actually been around on our platform for quite a while, like independent ASPs, PowerHA, virtual tape libs. Of course, Tom Komadowski, one of our experts in the PowerVC or PowerVM world, hybrid cloud environments, IBMI in the cloud, more and more popular, VIOS, the AIX micropartition that's supporting your IBMI Power Systems virtual world. Some of the more advanced technologies like live partition mobility, being able to move a partition while it's active between frames. And of course, we've got with VIOS, we've got Linux or AIX running on IBM or running on Power, and of course, Linux on Power as well. We're seeing more of that. And look at this, in terms of SAN storage, we see a lot of SAN storage out there amongst our customer base, especially if they're going to be doing things like PowerHA. 60% of our respondents to the marketplace survey said no, strictly internal disk storage, and the rest you can see what sort of SAN storage people are taking advantage of. So feel free to send us in comments what technologies either in this list or not represented in this list are you folks using. And I'll ask a question of Tom Komadowski, our internal IBMI administrator. You know, you've seen a lot of these technologies. Which has been maybe the most valuable to you?
You know what? They work together. I know in our environment here, the Power VC and being able to have users deploy their own templates and their own systems and manage them on their own has been great. But to do that, we've had to have the SANs. You know, we've had to have all the other functions of VIOS, live partition mobility. That all comes hand in hand. So it's more or less together. But like I say, if I had to put my finger on one thing, it would be Power VC in our environment here.
Yeah. I distinctly remember about 6 months ago, I was having issues with one of my partitions running on a frame, and you moved me while the partition was live off to another partition, and voila, everything was great.
Yep, you didn't even know I did it. It ran in the background. Sessions stay active. The people don't even see that it happens. It's wonderful.
Yep. It is. And a quick question from our audience: can VIOS be implemented on internal disks? Tom.
Yes, VIOS is definitely works with internal disk. It can work with SANs. You can actually work with internal disks from multiple systems together. You can make a virtual SAN. VIOS basically just serves up virtual images or information to the partitions. The VIOS handles the physical part of it. So it's basically the hypervisor that translates the physical to the virtual for the partitions.
Johnny, I know you've worked with some of these technologies, and I know you guys are using flash copy, right?
Right. Yep. We use V7000s for our systems, and we've introduced flash copy late last year, and it's fully in place this year, and we love it. We can't get enough of it. And our systems, as our production environments, 24/7 availability of our production systems is really key. And Flash gives us that ability to minimize that downtime footprint. And that's where like Tom was talking about, a lot of these do go hand in hand. So Flash copy, we use VTL for the backups off of our flashed copy, and VIOS gives us the ability to share those devices across all of our systems. So all of these do go hand in hand, but it makes our life a lot simpler.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about backup and recovery. We'll talk a little bit about flash copy and VTL. All right, let's talk about root cause analysis. Tim Woodfield.
Yeah, so going back to, like I was talking about, being in the real world, one of the things that we want to do is making sure we understand exactly what our systems are doing and they're available for our end users, because that's when we get noticed as system administrators, right? Our systems are down, our systems are running slow. Making sure I can keep that system up and going for our end users, our user community, is primary in what everything we do day in and day out. So how do we do that? We monitor systems. We keep track of the important parts of that. We look for the things that go bump in the night that could cause us a problem down the road. And understanding, getting to that root cause analysis as quickly as possible. What's causing my system to slow down? What's causing my system to be down? Hopefully that never happens to you. But and then to Johnny's point, we implement new technologies not because they're cool and awesome, because they help the business do what the business needs and meeting those requirements of the business. So flash copy, PowerHA, different technologies that become available. I think as system admins, I kind of speak for the majority of folks out there. When the system's up and running and it's running perfectly, life is good, and I don't want to change a thing. But then the needs of the business change, and we have to move with the business and provide these opportunities to keep moving the system forward. So that's probably what drives a lot of our new technology out there. Go ahead, check the next screen. So from that standpoint, when we talk about operations management, obviously I've been with the robot product for a very long time, and we've got some nice tools out there that help just from a performance monitoring, capacity planning. That's one of the tools we picked up last year. Understanding where's my system going, how my system is growing, or where are those things that went bump in the night, and making sure I get ahead of that before it actually becomes a thing seen by my user community or impacts my user community.
Awesome. Thanks,
right.
Tim.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about updating. Ash.
Yeah, I love this. Now, what this is showing is that IBMI is going to be supported to 2030 and beyond, which I find incredible. I don't know any other platforms that publish something like this that extends to 2030 and beyond. It's great for the eye. I know in April that was the sixth consecutive quarter that the PowerSystems business line grew, and IBMI was a strong contributor to this. So the platform's growing. It's still popular. There's still support for it, and I know that recently both SkyTap and IBM themselves now offer a true cloud offering for IBMI, and I know Google is rumored to be doing the same thing by the end of the year, and I think this is great because it brings IBMI into the mainstream thinking, and I think that can only be a good thing long term. And I think with these cloud services, they'll take a little while for them to become popular and on trend for IBMI, and they'll initially be used for test and development type partitions, but they'll help the transition to DevOps. As with providers, you can take a snapshot of a partition. Developers can take a snapshot of partition and pass that on to testing to allow the QA team to kind of rattle on with testing. So I think cloud's definitely going to change things there, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what our marketplace survey told us about updates and what we're seeing there. Of course, we already looked a little bit at what version of the operating system that folks are running. 2018 showed that only 16% were at 7.3, and Ash now up to 42% in 2019. Huge leap.
Yeah, and I think now that spinning up an LBAR is so easy, that the hardest thing is making sure these partitions are up to date. And that can be quite a challenge. I know a lot of features now get introduced with technology refreshes, so that's something to keep an eye on. And but also we mentioned VIOS a couple of slides earlier, So I think 3.1, VIOS 3.1 was announced at the tail end of last year. So again, it's something else to keep on top of and to keep up to date. And of course, the more you keep up to date, the easier it is to troubleshoot solutions. And of course, on top of all that, you've got your third-party applications to keep up to date. But it does make it easier. I know from a HelpSystems standpoint, it does make it easier for vendors to troubleshoot problems when you're up to date. Johnny, how do Polaris handle updates? Do you do them regularly? What kind of cadence do you follow?
Yes, so interesting story. When I first started, our systems were about 4 years behind, and what was interesting was I had to sort of convince and explain. So as system admin day, so we're an educator. So I had to help educate our teams why it was important to to update the IBMI platform and how we fix things or introduce new technologies. So fast forward to today, they bought into that understanding, and now we are in a regular cadence every quarter. If there's any PTS, we update our groups and queues. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And I guess it's more exciting to be working on newer technologies as well as a sysadmin.
Oh yeah, it's great. I'm in, that's sort of my space, and I love introducing new things and helping solve a problem before it really is one. And with some of the new technologies, that helps us out a lot.
Got it. And Tom, how about us within HelpSystems? I guess we were early adopters of 7.4.
Yeah, we were on the 7.4 beta plan. Normally with our updates, for any currently deployed partitions, I will only update them when the person that requests them. That way their environment doesn't change without them knowing. They can test certain fixes, test a certain configuration. I will go through and update our deploy templates probably about once a quarter. Actually, I got to do it next week for all my templates. So, and that way, any new deployments in that will have the freshest fixes and tech levels on them.
Got you. So, HelpSystems, we're trying to do our bit as well to help customers. So, some of you will be using this already, some of you won't. Insight is a free web-based tool. It's a HelpSystems tool, and part of Insight is there's something called Deployment Manager that helps you see and manage upgrades to HelpSystems products. There's a little indicator there where Chuck's hovering that indicates there's an update available for these particular products, and you can install that on the fly. You can do a stage upgrade, which obviously pushes it to the eye. You can upgrade that from the green screen, or you can install it straight from this web GUI. Tim, do you want to talk a little bit more about what Insight brings and how far-reaching the solution is now?
Well, and just going back to, like I said, I went away for 3 years and worked at a customer site, and this was my biggest pain point with working HelpSystems. I was a customer of HelpSystems, so getting this technology, this was the first project I worked on when I came back, and making this technology available to customers was a driving point my first year back. So not only can you get, like Ash just said, not only are you notified of the update, but we're talking about 2 or 3 clicks, and I've actually installed the product on the system without having even to go to a green screen. And under the covers, if you get a chance to see Insight, take a look at it, there's also the ability to go and add a license key through this technology, as opposed to having to sign on the system, go into the menu and cut and paste it from an email. I can go and cut and paste it into this application, as opposed to having to get back onto the green screen. So there's lots of functionality in this, and if you're at all interested in seeing it, I think it'd be great to have a demo of the tool, and we can show you all the nuances of it, because it does make your life easier as a system admin.
Yep, not a problem. We do lots of Insight demos, and I'd be happy to do that for any of our IBMI customers. All right, next topic. Let's talk about security configuration and auditing, and we're going to bring in Sandy Moore, who's been working in the security space for many years, going back to the antivirus tool that HelpSystems provides, and prior to HelpSystems. And Sandy, you've been exposed to literally I mean, 1,000 of our customer systems now through the security scan.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a lot and see a lot of things that are scary, but I see a lot of companies really taking on the challenge of trying to get their security on IBMI to a better place. And that's really the goal there, is to continually work at security. And so with the marketplace survey, you know, we really did try to get a feel for what people feel their challenges are. And there's not a lot of changes between 2018, 2019. Some things shifted around a little bit. Some things actually are now a little bit more critical for people, like the security knowledge and skills. And, you know, that's what we see a lot. People, one of our attendees made a comment there that there's not just admins, but the category of admin and ops, and people are wearing multiple hats. And so, you know, whether there's no time for security knowledge and skill enhancement, or just not knowing that they need to know about it, you know, there's a lot of different things that can come into play there. But you know, I actually hesitate to believe that there's some actual people who responded to our survey that said they don't have any security challenges. You know, security is a moving target, and that right there kind of makes me scratch my head. At least it was less this last year. People are really actually realizing that you know, as the systems become more available, technologies have changed, that there's just that many more things that come into play.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Definitely. So, you know, with people that are working on the system, our administrators, you know, we have 1 to 2 admins, and that's the average. And what we find is that those admins are not just the admins, that they are, you know, doing ops, but they're also put in the role of security officer. And so really trying to bring that education up and helping people understand what needs to be addressed. And so we try to get a feel for what people are working on. What do they see as the challenges? And so, you know, making sure that the different types of challenges are, we've got tools for people to be able to use to meet those challenges, and sometimes even discovering that there is a problem. Now, Johnny, what do you think? Are you guys have security at the forefront? Are you also one of those individuals who is in charge of security as well as being an administrator?
Yeah,
Guys...
yes. Yeah, you know, when I think back when I was started in 98 on IBMI and fast forward to today, things have really changed. I mean, obviously modernization has, you know, improved quite a bit. So security means a whole different thing today, where before it might have been just IBMI object authority. Today it really means it's a broad statement, and so it kind of forces you to learn things that you may not have had to learn before.
Right.
One of the things that we recently did is partake in the HelpSystems security scan on our production systems, and we, you know, one of the things that we wanted to gain out of that is visibility. We knew that there's probably things that we could improve upon, sure, but the question was, what are they? And
Right.
the security scan allows us to gain that visibility, and it worked out great, because 2019 really is a an area that we were focusing on security at Polaris, and this was perfect timing because now we are heading into our project management for the remaining of the year as well as 2020. And with the information that we were able to gather out of those reports, it now puts us in line to focus on certain areas that we need to secure up.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. And, you know, that's really the goal there, is to allow people to see from a top-down view the areas you often don't pay attention to, or you don't know that you need to pay attention to. And so having that and then in that format to be able to provide not only internally for you admins, but also handing up to management and being able to show them, hey, this is, these things do need to be addressed. So what can we do? What can we plan for going forward? So I'm glad that actually gave you guys some traction there in getting security on your roadmap.
Yeah. Yeah, the reports are great, and that's something that our management team that are not IBMI that they can understand. So
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Awesome. And one other topic that we want to cover today, and it's just as important as the security topic, and it's probably the one topic that will help system administrators sleep at night, and it's something that we just depend on with our sysadmins, and that is that they're getting a good backup and they can recover to the recovery point that we want and in the time that we need it, and that's backup and recovery in HA. All right, so Tim, you want to join me for this little discussion? And one of our questions that we have is kind of let's call it a fictitious question, but I'm responsible for HA. What's the real difference between hardware replication and software replication, and why would I use one over the other? And we do have a marketplace survey result here as well. How do people approach system recovery? And about half say they use a high availability process to recover from a failure. 25% say they recover from tape. 13 VTL, and we are having a number of questions over VTL in our Q&A. Recovering from cloud backups, I hear more and more of that, and in some cases none. So Tim, what's your take on this, and maybe talk to the hardware versus software replication?
Sure, Chuck, and obviously we're in business on both sides of the equation with PowerHA, and we also have a solution for HA on the logical part side as well, the software side. But I think when you talk to customers, what you hear with the hardware replication, it's very much, it's bit for bit, byte for byte. It's moving data from one system to the other, and there's not a lot of flexibility there. But it also has a lot of, it's very, they know exactly where they stand. It's very capable of just moving the data from one system to the other. Where you get with software replication, a little bit more granularity, a lot more flexibility. So it really all depends, going back to what I said earlier, depends on the need of your business and the need of your environment. What technology are you going to use? Is it going to be hardware or is it going to be software?
Yep, and I'd say about 50% of the folks that I talk to in my tech update conversations say they haven't tested their disaster recovery plan, and that scares me.
Yeah, we've seen even it's even higher if they have high availability. Have they done a swap? And I've done 7 or 8 interviews with customers, and I want to say in those 7 or 8 interviews, I had 2 or 3 say we have never done a swap. And my question is, why? Because I call that the ultimate audit, right? If you can swap, that's the ultimate audit. And fear, time, and the flexibility. I don't have time and or the flexibility to do it. So I'm just going to say we've got high availability, and hopefully we roll the dice and it works.
Yep, and we hear this all the time as well. We're being asked to back up in a smaller and smaller window. How can we guarantee a good restore? So we're talking 2 topics here is, we only have a small amount of time and we want to get a good restore. Johnny brought up a good point, and that's flash copy. And Johnny, it sounds like you're having great success with flash copy.
Yeah, that flash is, flash takes 30 seconds to flash a system, and it's crazy how fast it is. But the backups, that does take time and replication, dedupes and all that type of thing. But getting the data that we actually that the user wants it's there. It's absolutely there. But software replication, that high availability, it lets you be more granular, and
Yep.
so there's pros to that side as well.
Yeah, so we've been working with things like virtual tape technology for a long time and integrating that in with our robot save, as well as Tim alluded to, HelpSystems are now the developers for PowerHA as well as BRMS. So we've got quite a bit of experience in the backup and recovery world for IBMI, and we've got 3 different virtual tape technologies here in our lab. And all those are great technologies to use to speed up your backup process to make sure you get a good restore. And we have both services and software that can help with that world as well. All right, so I've been making a mention of something called a tech update discussion throughout this webinar. It's usually about a 45 to 60 minute, could be as little as 30 minutes, but it's a discussion around what you're doing in terms of IBMI technology and what we're doing. We talk about about our software updates that we've applied that may apply to you. We talk about your projects and how we can help you move forward. And it turns out to be a great collaborative discussion, and you'll have an opportunity here at the end to raise your hand and sign up to get a tech update discussion. Tom Huntington and I do a lot of these, and as well as Ash Giddings in his time zone, and they're really a lot of fun. So we do have a couple of questions out there. And Tom Komadowski, I see you've been answering a number of them. We have a new one. Is backup every night necessary? We drop all systems in IPL every night. I'm going to let you take that, and I'm going to open up another polling question, and this is the last polling question of the day. How can we help you? Do you want to connect on a tech update discussion? Please schedule an insight demo. I'd like to trial Robot Monitor or Performance Navigator. More information on the security scan, that's a free service. And maybe you'd like to know more about HA and DR. Feel free to select one of those. Tom, is it necessary to back up every night?
You know what? That is dependent on your environment. Do you need to have a full system backup every night? Can you afford the downtime while the system's backing up in restricted state and IPLing? We're getting to the point now where our backup windows are getting smaller and smaller. And a backup, I've always been of the belief that a weekly backup of a full system backup on the weekend when you have the time, and then incrementals during the week. It makes your restores a little bit more difficult because you have to do the full restore and then do the incrementals from the week. Like I say, but it depends on your environment. If your backup window is so small that you can't be down at all, that other solutions like with flash copy or replication PowerHA to do backups on another system, that would be a solution too. Like I say, it depends on your environment.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Tim.
It really is the needs of the business that you're supporting, right? So it's and like you said, Tom, 24/7 at 365 is becoming a need for pretty much every business out there, and we keep hearing that over and over again. Sorry, Chuck, go ahead.
No, that's fine. And I think about recovery point objective and recovery time objective. Some people say, well, I do HA, I don't need to do DR, I don't need to get a point in time backup. And of course, it's not true. And of course, testing your DR plan, of course, is just as important.
Yeah, I would like to emphasize backups are very important, but restores, test your restores, know the process, know how it's done. If you have a good backup but you can't restore it or you don't know how, you're just as good as not having one. Test your restores. Make sure the tapes or whatever you're restoring from works. Make sure you have an environment that you can restore it to. That I can't emphasize how important that is.
Exactly, and I think Johnny, you'd probably agree with that.
Yes, yeah, we we get challenged on that all the time. So we know if something's wrong, we've got a solution for it right away. So that's a very important step, like Tom was talking about. Yep.
Yeah, so do your tests when you're not under pressure of having to get the business back up and running.
Yeah. Yep, and then document that process, so.
Yes. Yep.
All right. All words of wisdom from folks that are in the pits, so to speak, or in the real world, managing your IBMI, running on power, And certainly HelpSystems has been providing software solutions as well as professional services for many years, offering tools for BI, HA, document management, capacity planning, automation, monitoring, and alerting, and so forth. So feel free to contact us about any of your needs that you might have on IBMI. I have chatted out the link for the infamous astronaut ice cream. If you've never seen this before, it's pretty amazing. And it's our little thank you for being IBMI system admins out there in the real world. We really do appreciate all your efforts. And I appreciate everybody's participation today in today's webinar. Thank you, Johnny and Tom and Tim and Ash and Sandy. Hope everybody has a great weekend. And with that,
Chuck,
yeah.
I'd like to come over and get my ice cream. Can I come to your office for it?
All right, come on down.
All right, I'm on my way.
All right. Everybody have a great
weekend.
weekend.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.